Deion Sanders used, abused, and exploited HBCU Jackson State just to be given an opportunity to show predominantly white institutions that he could coach.
Prior to his death, I was a huge fan of Kevin Samuels, and what I liked most was the simplicity of his show. In the final 2 years, it was dedicated towards women, and they would call in wanting to know one of two things. One, do they qualify for a high-value man? Or two, why they've never found one. And the first thing he'd do is ask them a series of questions. Height, weight, dress size, age, when was the last time they were in a serious relationship, do they want to be married, do they have any kids, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how do they rate themselves? Fresh out of the shower, hair not done, no makeup. Now he asked those questions because he wanted to see if they can honestly assess themselves. And most women were honest, some were not. Then he'd proceed to tell them why they didn't attract the high-value men that they wanted. Again, some would listen, most would not, get upset and argue. They would attack him for telling them the things that they didn't necessarily want to hear but needed to hear. Now some would argue in earnest, others would call in and argue just to troll. But both parties wanted to be the one. They wanted to be the one to dumbfound or tell off the great Kevin Samuels. And while I did find it entertaining, I always thought it was silly, because these women were arguing against reality. It didn't matter what they said in response to what he told them. At the end of the day, they didn't have the man they wanted. They were single, and there was nothing they could say or argue to change that reality. They were spitting into the wind, trying to ice skate up a hill. The women didn't understand the purpose of an argument. In their mind, an argument is a word fight. Their thinking is, hey, I don't like what you have to say, so I'm going to say something nasty back to you. That was their mindset when they would disagree with him. And one of the things that I've learned is that an argument is a disagreement. And the purpose of a disagreement or argument is to win someone to your side. It's not about telling them off. It's about getting them to agree with your point of view. And if they don't come to see things from your perspective, you've lost the argument. It doesn't matter how much you've yelled at them, cussed them out, or left them speechless. Did the two of you come to your agreement? And if the answer is no, you've lost the argument. Even if you yourself are not persuaded by what they say in response, if they are not persuaded, you lost the argument. It's that simple. And so the ladies that argued with Kevin Samuels never won the argument. Even if they made great points, their reality never changed. Because at the end of the discussion, no high-value man or even an average man saw them as a viable mate. That's why all of them lost. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because it reminds me of what's going on right now between Deion Sanders and Jackson State. As you know, since his announcement of taking the job over at Colorado, things have gotten chippy between Deion, Jackson State, and various other members of the black community who've sided with Jackson State against Coach Deion. They're mad at him for leaving. They're speaking of him as if he's betrayed them or stolen something from them. Now, I initially was baffled as to why he would leave Jackson State for Colorado, primarily because Colorado is a horrible job, or better yet, it's the worst team that you can go to as far as Power 5 conferences go. But as I did my homework and more facts came out, I wasn't mad at him for moving on, because I attended an HBCU, and while I had an amazing time, met some wonderful people, and had a great experience, dealing with the administration side of things was a constant headache, so much so that I eventually left. The experience and the fun time that I was having wasn't worth the BS that I was going through, dealing with the employees and administrators. And from what I can tell, Deion was fed up with the same. To illustrate what I mean, I'm going to play a series of clips to illustrate the kind of stuff that Deion Sanders had to deal with, coupled with the things that he was able to accomplish.
I was more excited and happy for Deion, who's a very good friend of mine. We talk constantly. Had an inclination that this might be happening. But I just felt that he should be the one to break the news about what was going to happen in his future. I'm more excited for him than I am sad that for Jackson State. And I think that Jackson State should be sad, be excited, be happy for him, because he gave you the blueprint and showed you what you could be, what you could become. And you're more than a head coach. Deion did something that very few coaches are able to do. He leveraged his relationships. Skip, no football team had more uniforms than Jackson State except the University of Oregon. Under Armour, every single week, they got new helmets, they got new unis. He did this with Walmart. He took $150,000 of his salary and helped finish building the facilities.
He did.
He leveraged his relationship with American Airlines, so when they had to travel great distances, they flew American Airlines. He had a great relationship with Michael Strahan, so he says, hey, Stray, can you do me the solid? Hook the boys up with jackets and slacks, so we don't look like an all-tournament team when we're on the road. Some guys got on sweaters, some guys got on shirt and ties, some guys got on hoodies, some guys got on Jackson State paraphernalia.
Yep.
He did that.
He did that.
And still, we get opportunity. We say, ooh, we want guys to get opportunities. We want our black coaches to get opportunities. He gets an opportunity. He takes the opportunity, and now you mad. He brought
who's mad?
A lot of blacks that blow up, they're upset, man, he lied. You see you see how they hold us more accountable? They don't never say
wait, who's they?
I'm talking about my community.
Okay.
White people, I'm talking about us. They know what I'm talking about. Blacks are mad a lot, but look at what he's did. He brought eyes to HBCUs, Skip. There wasn't nobody talking about HBCUs, especially now. They're on television. That's because of him. He gave you a blueprint. Now follow the blueprint. There's someone on his staff, probably, and he's recommended somebody on his staff, but now he goes to a place that has resources.
Yep.
So guess what he can do? He can hire more coaches, more minority coaches, bring them, give them opportunities. I don't recall of an HBCU coach getting an opportunity like this. This was an opportunity too good to pass up.
Never even come close to happening.
It's too good to pass up.
Okay.
And so instead of being happy for him, we try to bring him down.
And we just talked about it. And ironically, everybody's dealing with the same foolishness, but people just don't talk about it. But this is the problem. I could say stuff. Coach George could say stuff. Coach Hugh Jackson could say stuff. You know, you got NFL pipe down guys, excuse me. But some guys that don't have that, they can't elaborate and talk about the dysfunction that they're dealing with because they're subject to be fired. And when we do it, you may not like it, but I'm not lying. So if I'm saying, how we gonna be on TV, you don't even sell out a darn home game. So who gonna wanna film an empty stadium? They may not like it, but I ain't lying. How can we have 60,000 people in a darn stadium? You talking about we sold out, and I checked the receipts and we done sold 28,000 tickets. Now y'all better find out who's stealing, because that affects my pocket. You may not like it, but I ain't lying. So it's a lot of stuff like that, and it's more that goes on that we got to address. And I just have the audacity to address it, because it's for the kids. It's for the kids.
But what I'd like to know is, why can't they acknowledge the good that he's done instead of chastising him for leaving? Jackson State's football program was dead, non-existent. Nobody cared or was talking about it. Coach Sanders brought them to a place of prominence. He gave up half of his salary to improve their facilities, brought in 4- and 5-star recruits, which led to them getting broadcast deals on television, generated $185 million in revenue for the university, again while taking a pay cut. And he also applied pressure to NFL scouts to come and watch their pro day for all of those players that were moving on to the NFL. He even mowed the lawn of their practice facility. So while the federal government was reneging on a promise that they made to increase funding to HBCUs, Deion Sanders was bringing in alternative sources of revenue. He took nothing, gave everything he could, and made good on a promise that the government didn't keep. But still, that wasn't enough. And the thing that bothers me most about all the hate he's receiving is that Deion didn't have to do any of this. He was living the sweet life as a retired NFL player. He was living off of his investments, endorsements, and NFL pension money, working part-time as an analyst for the NFL Network, while volunteering as a coach for his son's high school football team. He was living a stress-free life. And again, he didn't have to do any of it, because Deion Sanders went to Florida State. He's not a Jackson State University or HBCU alumni. He has no moral obligation to them. So how In the midst of all of his sacrifice, did the good people of Jackson, Mississippi and Jackson State University repay him? Well, they broke into his office. They broke into his son's car. He got minimal financial support from the alumni. Remember, he had to give up half his salary to improve the facilities, which is unheard of in college sports. You'd never hear a major university asking their coach for help, but I'll come back to that in a minute. And they didn't show up to the games. But the thing that bothers me the most, now, for those of you that have never been to a HBCU, those video clips that I played for you seem unrealistic. There's no way all of that happened. But for those of us that have, that's standard operating procedure. We're not shocked by any of that. Because the sad reality is there's a lot of graft, incompetence, and corruption at these HBCUs. A lot of them are underfunded, yes, but their downfall primarily is self-inflicted. The people that they hire and the people that run them are simply no good. Now, in response to everything that's been said about them, Jackson State has fired back. Not so much to defend their reputation, but more so to attack and besmirch Coach Deion Sanders. Okay, but it's falling on deaf ears because we all know whatever they were before he got there, they're much better off now. We know Deion put them in a better place. So given those facts, all these attacks from them on him are uncalled for. I mean, even with me personally, I sided with Deion and I had a guy tell me that I was some type of a paid plant from the white man, that the things that I was saying were not written by myself, that some white man wrote them for me.
What?
I mean, it's the most ridiculous nonsense I've ever heard in my life. And again, it all reminds me of the women that used to call into Kevin Samuels' show.
Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right.
Delusional, angry, and argumentative. That's how Jackson State is behaving right now. Instead of owning their failures, accepting all the ways in which they were wrong, they want to fight the issue, as if winning a word battle is going to change the reality of the situation that they're in. It's not going to bring Coach Prime back to Jackson State. And more importantly, you won't see another coach of his caliber willing to do the same, not based on the way that they've treated him. Because Deion Sanders is a man of influence. I mean, going back to what Shannon Sharpe said, he said that he and Coach Sanders talk constantly. Now that's important because Shannon Sharpe is an influential figure, okay? And Deion has his ear. He also mentioned that Deion has connections, corporate connections with Walmart, Under Armour, American Airlines. But here's the most telling. He also has a strong relationship with Michael Strahan. Now, Michael Strahan is a JSU alum. He went to Jackson State, but it took Deion to get him to do something for the university. Jackson State couldn't do it by themselves. And again, he's an alum. My point is, Deion Sanders has powerful connections. And I'm sure he's told people behind closed doors what it's like to work there. And I'm sure from afar they've seen him struggle just to get the basic things done. So he's built a level of credibility that they don't have. That's why their attacks on his character are not working. And to expound further on what Shannon Sharpe said, this should be a celebratory moment because Deion gave them a blueprint for what they could be. They should be thanking him for showing them what they can do instead of trying to tarnish his legacy. And that's the thing that's so embarrassing about all of this. Mobility happens all the time in college sports. Just look at this past summer. We saw Brian Kelly leave Notre Dame for LSU, Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma for USC, Mario Cristobal left Oregon for Miami, and Sonny Dykes left SMU for TCU. And not once did we see any of those universities, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, or SMU, besmirch their coaches for leaving. Nobody called them a sellout or a traitor for moving on, or claim that they lied to the athletes they recruited. And watch, Colorado is not a premier football power. They don't have the type of financial resources to keep a coach like Deion Sanders. Hell, they don't have the money now. They're going to have to raise it. But if Deion does a good job, he'll move on to a bigger and better program in the next 3 to 5 years. And when he does, the people at Colorado will thank him. They'll be glad for the time that they've had him, and they'll build on whatever infrastructure he's left in place. You won't see them cut up and act a fool the way Jackson State did. So if you like this video, please give it a like and leave a comment in the comments section and share the link on your social media platforms. And if you are new to my channel, please subscribe and turn on that notification bell. That way you'll get alerts every time I upload new content. This is the Laymans Journal. Thanks for stopping by. I'm out.